the very simple migration of the company through the valley of death to the other side, the partnership between the venture capital and CVC. I'm sure that must be how it is in real life. Anyway, to explore that, I'm going to hand you over to our expert panel, who's in the great hands of Kevin Ye, who is a partner of corporate investing with Mac 49. Is it as simple as that, Kevin?
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And, so I'm always really excited to be at GCV because I feel like this is the only true industry event where a lot of us peers in corporate innovation can come together and have some honest discussions about, you know, challenges and problems that really you would only get if you were trying to run a corporate VC arm. And so for me, listening to all these sessions and hearing about all the new strategies and tactics everyone's using internally to help manage the mothership and stakeholders is always super helpful, always really fascinating, and I think just helpful for the industry. But I'm really excited today to kind of flip the table a little bit because, you know, as we all know, venture capital, the business of innovation, this is an ecosystem game. Our relationships with our external parties and not just what goes on within our own corporations, these matter just as much, if not more, to the success of our business and our activities. So I'm really delighted to welcome to our panel today Wendy, a partner at Convivialité Ventures, and Jean-François, who is a partner at Cathay Innovation. And really what we're going to be talking to you guys today is about really the tactics of what does a good relationship between a CVC and a VC look like? And for those of you, many of you who consider LP strategies as part of your investing strategy, how should you be thinking about that? How do you evaluate? And how do you work at post-investment with a VC? And I'm really delighted that we have a best-in-class example in the industry, in my opinion, to show with you all today. So as we get started, I'll actually ask each of you, maybe ladies first, to give a quick introduction of your firm and your mandate and the history of the company.
So Convivialité Ventures is the venture arm of Pernod Ricard. It was started about 5 years ago, initially out of San Francisco. We now cover 4 geographies. So I joined 2.5 years ago to launch EMEA and LATAM. We also have a team in China and a team in India. Obviously, it's a very large scope, and there's only 10 of us in the team. So investing, doing LP bets was just obvious for us because it's a way to extend our reach. When it comes to what we invest in and the objective of the fund, so we were asked by our CEO, Alexandre Ricard, to start this fund in order to invest beyond the core. So we don't invest in alcohol, and we invest in 2 main spaces. One is consumer companies that are related to the space of what we call convivialité. I know it doesn't mean anything in English, so we translate it by saying we invest in companies that unlock the magic of human connection. So it's really about investing in companies that help people meet, live experiences, and also shop differently. And we also extended recently our thesis to a more traditional corporate VC space, meaning tech enablers for the core business, including retail tech, hospitality tech, any kind of tech partners that can empower the transformation of the group. And we invest mostly from stage A to C. Today we have 35 companies in the portfolio, and we invest about 50 million per year per geography.
Fantastic. And what I've always loved about the Convivialité Venture story is, the simple way I like to tell people is, they're in the business of funding fun, F-U-N. And there's really no better mandate than that. But Jean-François? Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Very, very happy to meet you, to be here. Cathay Innovation was created in 2015. We are currently managing roughly $1.5 billion. We are currently raising our Fund 3, and obviously we are super happy to meet potential new partners here. To give you a rough idea, we started with a Fund 1 in 2015 that was around $300 million. Fund 2 was 650 million euros, and we're currently raising probably like a $1 billion euro fund. And we, from day one, we started to develop a very unique model, working closely with leading corporates in different sectors that are all joining us as strategic LPs. And we invest 1/3 in Asia, 1/3 in North America, and 1/3 in Europe. That is for the global mandate. And on top of this, we are also having dedicated funds for Africa and Latin America, on which we're also working with some of our corporate partners. And we invest from a Series A to Series C, initial tickets from, I would say, 5 to 40 million euros. And we look for companies that can scale significantly and become at least regional or global leaders.
And just to clarify for the audience, you are not a CVC arm of Cathay Pacific, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point. We are, I would say, a purely return-driven fund. Yeah. But we do find an amazing value in working closely with corporates that are investor with us. And we'll probably dive deeper into the model we have.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I think, why don't we get started with an easy question, which is, how from either of you, how did you two find each other? How did the two firms get to know each other and get introduced in the first place?
So I guess there's two answers to that. Myself, I'm kind of a veteran of Cathay because I started initially running the corporate VC of BNP Paribas Cardiff, which is actually co-managed by Cathay. So I've been in the Cathay family forever, and they helped me grow in my professional career a lot. And then when it comes to Pernod Ricard versus Cathay, I think it was Ming Po who met Alexandre Ricard, but you probably know the story better.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we really started to work with Pernod Ricard and Convivialité Ventures when we were raising our Fund 2. Mm-hmm. Fund 1 was kind of the proof of concept of this overall model. We had like 6 corporates. Fund 2, we were onboarded close to 20 leading corporates. Mm-hmm. And at the start of the Fund 2, so late 2018, early 2019, we started to discuss about reinforcing also our arm in consumer-related investments. Yeah. Because so far we had a lot of partners coming from the more like traditional or heavier industry. Yeah. And so we started to discuss, and we had great reference call from a couple of other large CEOs, the CEO of Pernod Ricard, so Alexandre Ricard. And so that was, then the easy connection, but also creating a very strong human bond between the two CEOs, CEO of Cathay, Ming Po, and CEO of Pernod Ricard, Alexandre. And then obviously it started also to be expanded to the broader team collaboration. And so, initially the team was mostly based in San Francisco for Convivialité Ventures. Obviously we had a great connection there, but then we were also super happy to kind of help them setting up a team in Europe with obviously Wendy, was very valuable to our eyes, and so we are super happy to see her continuing the journey with Cathay through Pernod Ricard. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Might I add also that aside from the human connection, those guys showed us the money right away, because when we invested in Cathay, we were actually thinking about setting up the office in Europe, and they helped us get into Glovo, which is one of the leading on-demand delivery platform, which is now one of our biggest partner when it comes to on-demand delivery. It was a super competitive round, so they helped us do the first investment in Europe. So not only a lot of fun, but a lot of efficiency also.
That's true.
And am I correct? That was Convivialité Ventures' first unicorn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, actually, on that note, would love to hear a little bit more on the Cathay innovation side. I think you guys are pretty unique because you're not from the beginning you've been open to welcoming corporate LPs, but you're not what I would normally describe a corporate LP fund, right? If I recall correctly, less than 50% of your LP base or strategics or corporates. Actually, you are a traditional fund. You've raised from all the traditional LP sources. What was the strategy behind the corporates that you let around the table, and what made you so open to working with kind of the 800-pound gorillas in these sectors, right?
I think at the end of the day, when you look at the venture industry, it's like any industry. You need to build a differentiated offering. Yeah. You need to have like a strong competitive edge. And for us, the overall idea was to fulfill a strong demand on the market. What we saw that the cooperation between startups and corporates was not always super successful in the past, and we felt there was a need also to have like a middleman to support and put a stronger link between this cooperation. And so we wanted to test this model about onboarding corporates in a return-driven VC firm and VC fund to also support the collaboration with startups, because in our point of view, and part of the team was coming also from corporates and corporate venture teams, they always view large strategic players not like as old incumbents that would necessarily die, but rather as super mighty players that also had a strong role to play in the future development. And so we felt it was not to oppose two worlds, but rather to bridge the gap. And so and for us, obviously, the overall idea was also to reinforce our value proposition. Yeah. And I think that's also what we started to do and increased over the years, was also to showcase that it's really extremely valuable to have close partnership with leading corporates, because obviously it's a lot of amazing opportunities in terms of business development, commercial partnerships, access to skills for the startups we're partnering with, and also for us in terms of access to knowledge, to skills. We are working with a lot of global players that are in many different countries, that have hundreds of thousands of employees, a lot of experts in their field. And so for us, it's like an amazing pool of talents and insights also to tap into. Yeah.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, Wendy, when I think about all of our CVC colleagues in the audience, a big part of setting up a venture capital arm is you want to be the direct investor. You want to be the direct investor because that's where you get the impact, that's where you get the insights, that's where you can kind of harness that strategic benefit. And I think a lot of our peers, they have a direct-only strategy. So can you walk me through, and you mentioned some of these benefits already, but what was the thinking going through Convivialité's Ventures, the team, as you were thinking, well, we want to augment that direct investing strategy with an LP position?
Yeah. So I think the strategy with Convivialité Ventures was to, first of all, try to set up a team which is a mix between having some veteran, and I say this is with a lot of respect, veteran and trusted people from Pernod Ricard, who are trusted by our CEO, who know everybody internally, and having a team of investors who come more from the VC or the corporate VC side to make sure that you bring the good practice inside the investments. But then at the end of the day, there's a question of scale. So, if you want to cover 4 geographies, you need to hire very big teams. So the best way to do it faster and better is to do LP investments in which we are not necessarily, of course, we're very happy about the return of Cathay, but we're not necessarily interested in the return. What we want is access to deals, having a partner that can push to co-invest with us, and also sharing some insights. So I know that I can always, get my phone and call Jean-François to ask him some insights on this company, on this industry, and this really helped us grow much faster as an investment team, and also scale across different geographies. And it turns out also that Cathay has helped us when we wanted to go into different verticals or geographies, also to develop that. So we opened recently our investment in LATAM, and Cathay was launching a fund in LATAM. So we thought it was a natural fit to also invest in this fund. Same for China. Now they are looking at crypto, and of course we are looking a lot at crypto. So it's really like a natural fit to accelerate the insights and to expand our teams while getting a return. So it's a win-win partnership for us.
That's fantastic. And if I kind of recap some of that, it sounds like one of the major components was Cathay was already kind of a global presence with multiple teams. They had really almost acted a little bit like the advance party for you to understand a region before even Convivialité Ventures set up an entity or a team in that area, and that was super helpful insights to you. Maybe staying on this topic, you mentioned financial return, and we think about the opposite of that, strategic return. A lot of the corporates that I talk to, whenever they think, I want to make an LP position, the first thing that comes out of their mouths is like, well, I only want to invest in a fund where they're 100% focused, at least in the sector that I want to invest in, right? Because they assume that's where all the deal flow comes in. Now, obviously, Cathay Innovation, you have corporate LPs from a lot of different industries: tires, energy, alcohol, and you're a generalist fund. So, Wendy, I would love your perspective on when you all were evaluating Cathay. One, how important was financial return, or at least their historical performance in that process? And the second is, how do you view that? Well, you obviously invested in a fund that the investment thesis may not mesh 100% with you. What was the value in that?
So I think when we look at the investment, well, from the financial side, it was kind of a no-brainer because the return of the fund one was, you know,
Yeah,
over the moon. So, so you know, we don't invest in a first fund generally. So we want to make sure at least that there is a good track record there. And when it comes to the thesis, you know, I think investing in a fund which is too narrow will most probably also kind of cap you in what you want to explore. So yes, we do invest in Convivialité, but we recently extended to our thesis to B2B topics. For example, we look a lot at B2B marketplaces. And within this space, when you talk about B2B marketplaces, you talk a lot about fintech. So at the end of the day, our thesis evolves as we move forward, because our job is to be the explorer for the group, and it's great to have a partner that helps us be the explorer and already have those expertise that helps you go beyond your own thesis, and also, you know, we kind of grow together. So when we tell them, we spend a lot of time together, and we tell them what we are looking at, they understand, and it doesn't have to be only about our own industry. That's why we are here for.
Yeah.
Maybe to complement what Wendy was saying, you know, we're super happy to be like what we call multi-vertical fund, because there is definitely a couple of sectors or sub-themes that we're not covering. But I think the strength of the model and being an LP in Cathay is that you also have access to what's happening in adjacent areas, adjacent sectors. Like Wendy mentioned, you know, the future of commerce, when you look at it, is also heavily impacted by innovation in fintech and insurtech, with embedded commerce and buy now, pay later. This has a lot of implication. I think it's very interesting for players that are heads down on the future of commerce to also be very, very you know, closely related to the innovation in the fintech space. And obviously, the way we really partner with them is that, one, we're bringing them a global coverage, because all of them are global players. So for them, just to have like a European deal flow or just US deal flow is interesting, but you're kind of missing the point because they have global you know, ask and needs. They need some global solutions. Some of them have more like acute challenges in some countries. You know, China for a number of groups is always like a struggle, and so we're also happy to support them all. But I think down the road they are super happy to have like a global perspective at the topics, because it's really matching their own way at looking at opportunities and challenges. And so that's, I think, also the strong match is we have a kind of a similar footprint. Obviously, we are much smaller in terms of scale, but in terms of mindset and operation, we are kind of matching well their ambition. And I think they also now recognize that they are having a lot of synergies with also having corporates from very different industries within the same group. It's almost acting like a club. You know, we're gathering them a couple of times a year. It's super interesting to see people from very, very different industry exchange and have some crazy idea together. You know, like, you know, we have Sanofi in the pharma world. We have Total, the energy group. We have Pernod Ricard. We have Unilever. A lot of people that have very, very different businesses. But when you put them in the same room and you start, you know, working on the future trends and trying to think smartly about what's ahead of us, I think this is also where you start thinking out of the box and having like more interesting discussion versus just being in the same silos every day.
Yeah. Well, I think there's 2 points in there I really latched onto. I think the number one, which is there's no theme that's ever so narrow and neatly contained. There's intersections with all these other areas, and to understand the dynamics and how they impact even your core themes, really important. The second thing is your own themes will evolve over time, and we should anticipate that. The third one, actually, I was thinking about, which I imagine is helpful, is, you know, sometimes it's a diversification play, because, you know, I remember, you know, when all the mobility startups were at a huge premium, if you were only a mobility-focused fund, you know, the only deals you were going to be able to do were expensive. It would have been nice to have at least some part of your portfolio that was investing across some other sectors where maybe the macro shocks would have had a different play. Speaking about China, though, one of the interesting things that you guys have done is actually, I believe you've set up a fund that specifically for an organization, single anchor LP to expand into China. Is that true? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's a bit more complex than this. So
Yeah.
obviously, to invest in China, we have the global fund raised in euros.
Yeah.
And so we can invest in Chinese company in some sectors, not all of them. Some are regulated and kind of forbidden for foreign investors. And to go deeper in some sectors where we thought, collectively with our strategic partners that, there was some value in being China-focused. We set up specific funds in renminbis, the local currencies. And so it's true that we had some local strategic partners, plus global anchor investors. So one was with Valeo, the automotive tier one supplier, setting up also with local Chinese investors, local funds, government-backed funds. So Valeo is a minority shareholder, LP in this fund, but obviously it's like the main strategic contributor to it. And so with this fund, we go much deeper in investing in hardware, super deep tech investment, like the future technology of sensors for autonomous cars, the future of battery technology, the future of solar panels. That's super interesting. And we also did it for smart cities and future of energy with Total, Air Liquide, and CMA-CGM that were also interested not to be on their own in a local Chinese fund, but also with a mix of them as global players, mostly foreign players, and local Chinese investors. And so this is also how you're localizing yourself. Because then when this fund is investing in a local technology company, it's perceived as a local investors. And so you're really mingling very well in the local ecosystem. And the last example we did was also with Pernod Ricard about doing like a co-creation fund, so super early stage, with a couple of other consumer large corporates from Europe to create an early stage fund to back emerging brands. Because there is a big movement right now in China, which is the emergence of large consumer brands, looking a bit at unbundling the Procter & Gamble of the world. Obviously, there is the market will be shared by many different brands, but we thought it was interesting for these large consumer groups to be exposed and to contribute also to the building of the large brands of tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I think that's quite brilliant because I know there's so many corporates out there who are interested around what innovations are happening in China, but the market being as unique as it is, it's difficult to, invest in a Chinese fund. And for most people, the only option they have is actually I'm going to go hire someone in China. They're going to go set up an office and do all that. You've essentially given them the shortcut. You've staffed the team, you found the right professionals, and you gave them a really risk-adjusted way to get those insights and access those types of deep tech deals, which I think is brilliant. Looking at the clock, we got maybe 7 minutes left. I'd love to talk a little bit more about the tactical interactions between the two of your firms, because we always hear about these high-level benefits of LP positions in the VCs, but I'd love to just understand how does that work day to day? So maybe Wendy, we'll start with you. Just when you need help, who do you call? and how has Cathay helped your team throughout the entire deal life cycle, right?
So when it comes to the day-to-day relation, it depends on the geography. So in some geographies like China, we are very much embedded in the sense that I think every 2 months, the Cathay team has meetings with the CEO of Pernod Ricard China and all its the C-suite, really to share trends and insights. So there's a lot of work being done from the Cathay side to kind of also translate what they see into opportunities for Pernod Ricard. Then we have monthly meetings where Cathay shares opportunities, and then our relationship is so close that with a lot of communication happens on WhatsApp. It's like we see a deal, we share it, and then they help us get into it, get insights. I know that I can call Jean-François if I want some feedback on a company, on a specific space, etc. When it comes to them helping us throughout the whole life cycle, this is something I really much appreciate, because there's a lot of firms that when you are in the dating seduction part, they will promise everything. So maybe they'll do a few intros, maybe they help you get into a deal, and then afterwards nothing happens. So I counted it yesterday. We invested, thanks to directly or indirectly. So it could be co-investment or introduction. Thanks to Cathay, more than 80 million. So this is, a really amazing number. So they keep on doing it. And the great thing is that they also helped us grow throughout the life cycle of investments, especially when it comes to Glovo. So typically, we invest stage A to C. Then the company grew quite a lot, so they helped us also to understand, how do you look at a company that is a growth company, and how do you prepare exit strategies? And they were super supportive in the sense of, really vouching for their LPs who are investors in Glovo, saying, okay, we are all going out together. And so this was super helpful to have this expertise, because honestly, my experience is more investing in early stage than late stage, and I learned everything thanks to them. So, yeah.
No, it's true that we are risking ourselves as a enhancer of the existing corporate venture activity. And so we're not here to replace whatever activity. I think it's very complementary to the direct investment, potentially the incubation work. And we are also super happy to obviously support the team in terms of skills. Because obviously we have a larger team with people that have been in the venture industry for like 20 plus years. And so, for us, it's very natural to also help the corporate partners to grow their team, to also, upskill and go through the entire life cycle. And it's true that we for us, it's natural to fight on behalf of our strategic partners, because again, we're part of the same family. And so Glovo is a good example, because obviously we have a couple of our LPs that are investor with us in the company. And we're currently going through an exit process, which is public. And we will have this also, the same situation with a number of companies in the coming quarters. And so that's, for us, it's key. And it's true that from a corporate LP perspective, you'll not always have the bandwidth or the team size to manage complex exit process. And so it's true that it's, I think, very enriching also for us to work and see also the challenges they have internally to manage the processes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, so I started this panel by talking about the importance of ecosystem and CVCs and corporates, we often can get mired in kind of the internal politics, the mothership management, everything like that. I think a really good question to kind of end it on, and I'll actually direct it at you, is, you don't have to be the one to say it, I'll say it. I've looked at a lot of corporate LP side letters. Some of them are very overbearing. But what makes a good corporate LP? What makes a good corporate partner for someone sitting in your shoes as a traditional VC fund, financially focused? And if you have maybe an example of where one of your strategic LPs has been of value to Cathay, I think that'd be a great note to end on.
Yeah. That's a very good and complex question. Obviously, it's like defining the best clients you can have. I think, and the Pernod Ricard is probably one of the greatest examples of, a key, but this is an easy answer. Yeah. To be a bit more specific, I think what you're looking for is alignment of interest. You also want to make very clear from the beginning of the partnership, what are the expectations. And so we're very clear outward that we are not a consulting firm. We're not McKinsey. We won't deliver you like 200 pages reports every quarter. This is not our job. We are investors. And so, obviously we're super happy to share our investment memos, the thesis work we're doing internally, but we are not really, doing consulting job for the corporates that are investing in our funds. What we definitely deliver is total transparency. And so we're also looking for people that are willing to spend time to interact with our deal flow, to look at the opportunities we're sending to them, that are interested also in really paying attention to what we're bringing. To have like a very passive corporate LPs has very limited value for us. We're not taking corporate LPs just for the money, but really for the corporate value they can bring. And so for us, it's also very important to make sure they are well staffed and they have ambition to do, what we call moonshot projects, so potential investments that can transform the overall company down the road. And so this is the type of, I think, partners we're looking for. I think Pernod Ricard has this type of mindset. Sanofi is also a big partner for us, and is also, they recently invested $150 million in one of our portfolio company, Oakin, which is, something pretty unique from a French corporate point of view. And we do think this is a kind of a first step before like more ambitious bets, because, especially in Europe, I think the overall startup ecosystem kind of suffered in the past of kind of the limited ambition of local, corporate ambition toward making large bets, large acquisition, or large investments in companies that could scale and transform the industry. And so we're supporting them also to transform their mindset. And so we definitely look to partner with corporates that have this also high ambition. It's not just a side gig just because everyone else is doing it, but it also needs to be like a kind of CEO sponsored. Usually, this is also very important. Is to have the full alignment within the group, because again, we are all in providing value for them. So this is what we're looking for.
Yeah. In other words, it's a true bi-directional partnership, and I think that's the best possible note to end this on. So thank you again so much, Wendy and Jean-François.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, please feel free to find any of us later on for any questions.
I'm going to thank you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.